Hey, everybody. Welcome in. I'm going to give it a couple minutes or so for folks to join. But like we always do while we wait, why don't we all drop where we're calling in from? So I'm in New York City, which, if you've been to one of my previous webinars, you might already know. It's a very exciting place to be on this day, New Year's Eve. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff going on later, um, but not as exciting as this webinar. So I'm going to give everyone a minute or so to jump in, and then we'll get started in just a minute. Seeing LA, Warsaw. Slovakia, Fort Lauderdale. All right, cool. So we've got some folks in here now. Let's get started. So welcome everybody. I'm Brian. I'm a developer relations engineer here at Kilo Code. And today's a little bit different from our usual webinars. Normally we're, demoing a new model or walking through a new feature, and there's a lot of, let me show you this thing. Today's going to be more of a conversation, a discussion. We're going to talk through some things that I think a lot of developers are thinking about, but maybe not talking about enough right now, which is how do we actually secure the code that AI is writing for us? And I specifically wanted this to be a discussion because honestly, this is new territory for everybody. So we're going to share some thoughts. We really want to hear from all of you in the chat too. If you have experiences, hot takes, questions, whatever, just throw them in the chat or join the stage. And I'll tell you how to do that in just a moment. But I want to give a quick intro before we get into that discussion. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. Okay, so let's just go ahead and start off by acknowledging the reality of AI coding as we approach 2026. And for maybe some people that are in the webinar right now, you're already in 2026 if you're on a different side of the world. So AI generated code is everywhere now. It's not a novelty anymore. It's not, oh yeah, I tried that AI coding thing once. For a lot of developers and definitely for people using Kilo Code, AI is writing a significant chunk of their code base. And that's a big shift from what a lot of us are used to. And it's been an absolute paradigm shift. And that's honestly putting it lightly. I saw a reliable stat recently that said 41% of new code is now AI assisted or AI generated. And that number is only going to keep going up, right? Especially with tools like Kilo, where you can spin up maybe an entire project using orchestrator mode in just one prompt. You can produce a lot of code really fast. I know for me personally, being someone who, I wouldn't necessarily call myself an engineer, maybe a vibe engineer. I'd say like 99% of my code these days is AI generated, which is just a crazy thing to think about. If we think back to like last year or the year before that, that would have been, a fantasy. But that's great, right? That's the point. Move at kilo speed, get from idea to shipped product, faster than ever before. But here's the thing: when you're writing the code yourself, line by line, you know why you wrote it that way. You know the trade-offs you made. But when AI writes code for you, especially when it's writing a lot of it, that relationship changes, and I think it's something we need to talk about. And that's kind of why we have the reality presented in this next graph, which it might be a little difficult to see, so I'll read it out for you. But it shows that 48% of that AI generated code, which makes up almost half of all the code that's new in the world right now, contains some kind of security vulnerability. That's a pretty startling number, right? Half of that AI generated code contains at least some minor vulnerability that could be a security issue. 50% of AI generated APIs are publicly available, and 89% of those use insecure authentication methods. So that's like a pretty startling statistic, right? So the question becomes, I think, when we're thinking about this, is how do we make sure the code that AI writes is actually secure? Not just functional, because we know it does that, but secure, because I think those are two different things. And I think sometimes we tend to conflate them. And also, when we do choose to code manually, how do we know that we're extending secure code, right? When we jump into a project that AI has helped us generate the majority of, how do we know that when we make extensions or when we make manual modifications that that code we're starting from is secure? So that's what we're going to dig into today. Um, and the first thing I want to talk about is the review problem. So I see a comment in the chat. What did I miss? Sorry, I just joined. No worries at all. So today we're just going to do a discussion about how to secure AI code. So I'm giving a brief intro right now, and then I'll invite people to jump on stage or in the chat, and we can all kind of have a forum discussion on some of these topics. So the first topic, essentially, to kick us off, is what I call the review problem, which is when you write code yourself. Code review is about getting a second set of eyes on your logic, your approach, catching things that you might have missed. But when AI writes the code, you're now reviewing something that you didn't offer. And that's a different mental model, a different mental mode, right? I've noticed this myself when I use Kilo to implement something and it generates, a couple thousand, if not more, lines of code. The temptation is there to just kind of skim it and say, like, okay, I'm not like a senior engineer personally. Um, Maybe I don't even know better than the AI. It looks right enough. It runs. Let's ship it. But that's where these minor security vulnerabilities slip through. And that's why we have statistics like this that show that almost 50% of that AI generated code is insecure. So I'm going to ask my Kilo colleague Darko to step on stage here. And for anyone else in the chat who wants to, you can go ahead and set up, uh, hop on stage and unmute, and we can all have a chat. How should we approach reviewing AI generated code? Do you treat it the same as reviewing a teammate's PR? Do you go line by line, or is there a different process there altogether?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so how do you approach reviewing AI generated code? Well, first you can do it on your own. So,
Right.
I mean, ultimately, we are the people who are responsible if something goes wrong in our code base, especially if we are working at a company.
Right.
And second, you can use a code reviewer tool with a good model. Like we recently released, code reviewer. You also have a bunch of other products like, you know, Code Rabbit or whatnot. Cursor also recently acquired. I think it was Graphite, right?
Yeah, graphite.
Graphite. Uh, and there's a whole niche of basically AI security review tools that have their own custom models.
Hmm.
And this whole AI security agent space is quite new. Google DeepMind released a product in a research preview. OpenAI is also working on a product that's in, research preview. So it all comes down to basically try to use AI as a helper and use your own set of eyes, I think.
Yeah.
That's my opinion, at
No,
least.
I agree. I totally agree with that. And I'm curious if anyone else in the chat has an opinion on this. Like, what are your approaches to reviewing AI generated code? And you can feel free to jump on stage and unmute and chat with us, or just type in the chat and I'll read out your responses. Do you all use a AI code reviewing tool like, our code reviews or Code Rabbit or something similar? I see some people typing in the chat, so I'm just going to let them reply. Lots of people typing. That's great.
Yeah.
Hey,
So,
Brian, I had
amazing.
open and say something.
Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah.
please.
So, it's a good question, and I appreciate Darko's like straight to the point. You have to be responsible for the code that you're generating. We
Yeah.
have to practice. It's not up to the companies; it's up to individual people that are utilizing AI for whatever reason. So I
Mhm.
appreciate him saying that. But the way that I do it as a vibe coder, coming in from years of background from marketing and putting together programs, I would say that the way I usually review it is like pop it into so many other different forms of LLMs and try different models, because it's never going to be the best. But one thing that I've allowed myself to finally start doing is asking like the younger folks that are actually in school for CS still and they understand Python. I haven't been doing that, but one of the reasons why I wanted to join this webinar was to understand from a vulnerability perspective and a security perspective. Um, Nothing is seeming to really shock everybody. Everyone's still creating and generating different forms, but
Yep.
my way I review it is throw it into other forms of LLMs, but that was my take. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, of course. I think that's a great method. And one of our other colleagues here has an expression that I recycle a lot, which is that I think we should think of AI at this stage as like a junior developer. So, maybe one set of junior developer eyes isn't quite good enough to review your code, or maybe it is. Probably depends on the use case and what you're building. And I think, like you mentioned, Zane, like there's a trade-off going on right now, which is like developers are realizing they can ship code, huge amounts of code way faster. But that means that they have more code to review. So that's probably why a lot of these vulnerabilities are getting through, because they're deciding to go forward producing more code than reviewing pretty much everything, then scrutinizing everything that the AI generates. And I think that's why a part of the reason why we built code reviews, right, is we wanted to make it so that you could choose any model. And I'm glad you mentioned that too, Zane. You can choose any supported model in Kilo's code reviews to get, different reviews from different models, and different models have different strengths, right? Some are faster, some take more time to reason, some are more expensive. And depending on the project you're using or you're building, you might have different needs. And I think, one of the main, tenets of Kilo is that we never want to lock anyone into any specific workflow or any model. And I think as code reviews, AI powered code reviews become more and more prominent, that's something we really also wanted to extend to that. But yeah, I'm curious from the audience as well. Do you all find yourself trusting, and this kind of goes back to what Zane said, trusting AI code more or less than human written code at this point? Have the tides turned for you at all in that regard? Darko, I'm also curious on your thoughts on that, or if you've heard anything from, the wider industry on trust when it comes to AI code.
Yeah, I think, and feel free if anyone wants to join or write a text response, however you prefer. Basically, yeah, it's tricky because at the end of the day, I guess it depends on what's the surface of your responsibility. For example, if you work at a company like Kilo, which is used by thousands of people, you ship production level code. At the end of the day, you want to know the fundamentals of web security, computer security.
Mm-hmm.
But if you ship a personal project, then I mean, you can use Opus or Gemini 3 and a bunch of other models to make sure you're not making obvious mistakes.
Right.
But then if you're kind of making your own thing, your solo project or your SaaS, a bootstrap SaaS, you might want to get a friend to help out as well.
Yeah.
A set of extra human eyes.
Yeah.
So what people don't talk a lot is, yeah, basically, yeah, the level of responsibility you have at the end of the day. If you're a vibe coder, you can basically and you do your own personal projects. I mean, even if your $5 DigitalOcean VPS gets hacked, that's not going to change a lot, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And I see some comments in the chat here. Someone said, in order for our PRs to get merged in our team, it requires 2 reviewers. in the past we needed 2 engineers to review the PRs, but now that we ship more code with AI, we have 1 engineer and also an AI reviewer tool on top. And I think, yeah, I think that's reflective of what most orgs are probably doing at this point, similar to what we do at Kilo. Um, I think the AI code reviewer is great for, at least from my perspective, like what I do at Kilo is, I'm not contributing to anything super secure. I'm building a lot of like demo apps and showing off our new features and kind of fun vibe coded experiences and all of that. I think it's really good at catching those little vulnerabilities and nuances that I'm just not trained to know about. Oh, hey Giovanni, how are you?
Hey, all right, all right. Just
Yeah,
glad to be here.
yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too.
I was just wondering how your code review tool, which is in beta right now, right?
Yeah, I guess it's not technically in beta anymore. It's like in our launch period. So, we
Oh,
released
okay.
it. Yeah. Um, yep.
All right. So how would you say, I don't know if you're into skills at all for agents. I use droids from Factory
Mhm.
to create skills. And one of those skills could be code review, and it can get quite extensive. Um, and so you can get into automation, CI, um, bugs, tests. But you got to really understand your code base. So
Yeah.
then you then you add guidelines. So you create those guidelines, rules. You have the agents.md file to pair with that at the
Yep.
root. To create those guardrails essentially for them to then carry out those skills safely. How would you say code review? I mean, have you gotten into skills at all? Because I think Claude does it too, and they have the rules as well that you can establish.
Yeah.
You can like automate code review basically.
Yeah. No. Can I ask, have you checked out code reviews at all? Our code reviews yet? No, no worries. If not, I'm just curious because I can do a
I
quick.
just activated it, so I
Okay.
haven't paid too much attention to it because I was
Yeah.
looking more at doing that with the droids. But then I did notice it with Kilo code, and so I'm like, is this sufficient?
Yeah. Here, let me share my screen and I'll show you kind of how it works on our end. So yeah, it's kind of similar to what you're describing. So basically with Kilo code reviews, you can, choose like the focus area here, which is kind of similar to skills in that you have different,
Oh
optimization.
wow!
Yeah.
No, that's everything I would have skills for a droid.
Awesome. Yeah. So you can
So
choose,
that's interesting.
yeah. So you can choose like security,
But see, hold
vulnerability.
up.
Yeah.
But see. So here's the thing. So that all of those would be skills.
Yeah.
But then where would I have rules? Where would I mean, is that something you guys accommodate as well? Some kind of rules or guidelines, another file or something that recognizes
Yeah. So
something like that?
you can add rules in this custom instructions part here. So
Oh, so that's what that becomes.
yeah, yep.
Okay. All right.
Exactly.
Okay. Cool. I think I'm gonna really get into that.
I
I
think
clicked that. So I did enable that AI code review.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I haven't started paying attention to it. I got a lot. I'm dealing with infrastructure, so it's
Yeah.
I one way
refactoring.
to think about this is basically at the end of the day, you're sending a text message to an LLM. Some people call them skills, some people call them like us custom instructions, but at the end of the day, you check a bunch of options and you prepare a prompt which get sent to an LLM, and you get some response back, and the agent kind of interprets that response. So I think the more you see this from like a first principle thinking, the better you get, at least for me.
Mhm.
Well, let
So
me ask you this. If you think when having all of that enabled and the code review, and then having a really good set of instructions to have some solid guardrails, do you think at that point it doesn't matter as much the model? that you're using in that process?
I think it does because different models are optimized for different things. I know that Minimax, for example, they mentioned in their latest release that they have more training data for more niche languages because everyone seems to be around JavaScript, Python, but not many LLMs are as good in, let's say, Ruby or Go or C Sharp. So and also different models have different knowledge. So like, how do you say, like cutback periods? For example, let's say Next.js has a new release tomorrow, and the model is trained up until 3 months ago. Basically, it's not going to catch the most recent security vulnerabilities. So if you consider those things, then yeah, models can be all over the place. But I mean, things are going in a good direction, especially with the new model releases from open source providers and so on. But yeah,
I've been kind of more concerned about security. I was avoiding Chinese models forever, but somehow you guys got me to jump on the GLM, and that's been working really well. But it did make me wonder.
yeah, you usually have a whole industry of inference providers like Grok. Nvidia recently acquired yeah, I think it was Grok or not.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, for it's their biggest acquisition up to date. So basically they run those the Chinese models are basically open weight models which you can run on a US based server, so nothing kind of goes to China in a way, and you get
Yeah, I
more.
think I think Open Router you could do it that way. Is that you guys?
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and like Darko said, like there's ways to use those models without having to worry about those security concerns. But I just want to do a quick run through of how to actually set up code reviews for anyone that's curious and hasn't tried it out yet. So you just go to app.kilo.ai, you go to this code reviews tab here, you click enable AI code review, and then you can choose from any of our supported models. And there's actually a few that are free right now. So there's Grok Code Fast 1, Mistral DevStral 2, Cat Coder Pro V1. So those are completely free, and the paid ones just use the same Kilo credits that you use in the IDE or CLI or wherever else. You can choose the review style, strict, balanced, and lenient. You can choose the repositories that you want it to have access to, whether it's all of them or the selected repositories in your GitHub account or GitHub org. You can choose the focus area, which, like Giovanni said, it almost like skills, essentially like changing the prompt that you give the LLM to focus on certain areas of the code and certain review, prioritize certain aspects of the review. You can set a maximum review time, which determines how long the code review will run before it times out. And then you can add custom instructions or rules. And when you save that, anytime you create a new PR, it will automatically generate this review. So I basically pushed this PR for this test app that had a bunch of classic security vulnerabilities just to see how it would do. And it caught all of them. So let's say, for example, you had a hard-coded JWT secret. It would catch that because we told it to focus on security as one of the skills. Insecure admin check, SQL injection vulnerability, plain text password storage. So all of these, it'll give you the suggestions that you can just go ahead and commit. And then once you've committed the changes, and it'll re-review and make sure that all of the issues here that it found, probably the buggiest app ever made here, it'll re-review and make sure that all of those were covered in the update. So yeah, it's just a quick rundown of how code reviews actually works. And someone said, can we pick which PRs it will review, like triggering it manually instead of running on every PR? So right now I believe it's just it'll run on every PR for the selected repos. So you can choose the repos that it will review on, but not the individual PRs. Um, but maybe in the future that'll change. I'm not sure. No news on that right now, but yeah, I'm curious what you think on this too, Giovanni. But I think that AI generated code also introduces some new, some newer tradition or security vulnerabilities that are different than the traditional ones we're used to, and some new like attack vectors almost. One of them that's going around is prompt injection, which applies to coding agents too. So if your AI agent is reading context from your code base, from files, from environment variables, whatever, there's a potential vector where malicious content in those sources, the context that you're giving the model, um, that maybe you trust, could influence what the AI does. So like imagine there's a comment buried in some file that says ignore previous instructions and do X. Like that's a silly example, but the principle is still real. The model is taking in context from your code base, and if that context is compromised, the output could be compromised too. So I'm curious, Giovanni, if you run into any kind of new age security vulnerabilities that have kind of come about just since the AI generated code swell has occurred.
Um, damn, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there was just that recent thing, wasn't it, with the attacking all the GitHub projects named after that. I think it was from a movie or something. Um,
Well,
Damn, I can't remember the exact attack either, but it was within the past month, and it was pretty bad. Um, I mean, I work a lot on the blockchain side, actually.
okay.
I've just more recently gotten back into Web 2, and so, on the blockchain side, I'll write smart contracts, and then, there could be malicious things going on there, but then I'm getting everything audited anyway. Um,
Right.
you don't have to. You could write smart contracts and deploy all kinds of stuff in DeFi and not get audited. But
Right.
I wouldn't do that, and that's essentially my way of addressing that. And AI has entered the smart contract scene, so you
Mhm.
could easily drum up all kinds of really creative smart contracts and not audit them. Um, so that's how I deal with that on that side. So it's actually been something that I've been more recently concerned about because I think I'm not fully considering all of the possibilities, on my side. Um, I'm writing a lot of stuff in TypeScript, way more TypeScript than Python. Um,
Yeah.
but I do create a lot of standards and like what I'm doing now with schemas, work a lot on standardization and just, I don't know if but that's not like, that's in the actual process of what the infra does, not the actual code development.
Right.
And
Understood.
so you're speaking more to actually, developing and having things get in there. Um, yeah, I don't know right now. I'm kind of leaning on you guys or the droids to save the day.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and it's like it's not just things that occur in development. It's kind of just new things in general that we have to consider when we're relying on AI to write a lot of code. I saw a comment that says, would code reviews only review the PRs that I create myself, or would it also review PRs created by teammates in the same repo? So it'll review all PRs in that repo, whether it's you or a teammate. Someone said, how do you prevent token spikes when the update memory bank command is triggered on a massive monorepo? I used Windsurf for a little bit and noticed that large projects can consume thousands of tokens just reading the context. So I don't know, Darko, if you have any thoughts on that one.
Uh, yeah, the memory. I think this is one kind of disadvantage with the memory bank, but you basically have so many ways to kind of get context up to date nowadays. I think, for example, with Cloud Code, you when you initialize with init, it automatically reads everything. Yeah, it's a hard question, but I'll get back to you on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can kind of engineer that from some ways with the prompting, like having it, like singling out the files and edits that you want to make, and telling it which files to read to do that. But yeah, I agree. That's kind of a trade-off that you have when you're relying on AI to ingest a massive repo.
Because
And, yeah.
at the end of the day, the AI is trying to help you out to be overly helpful by reading all of the changes.
Mhm.
So you need to consciously tell it, hey, like with a kilo ignore file, ignore those files, basically. Or, yeah, it's a matter of exclusion, I think, at the end of
Yeah,
the
that's what I use the rule. That's what I use rules for.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like, Darko's right. Like its prerogative is to try to do as much as it can for you. So unless you tell it otherwise, it will do the most. So like you said, Giovanni, you can set these custom rules to tell it to limit what it should focus on and to enforce that it shouldn't focus on things that it doesn't need to.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the time to put something in that box and let you guys know how that goes.
Yeah, feel free to email me. I dropped my email in the chat. I'll send it out later to Brian.Turcotte, Turcotte at kilocode.ai. So I know we're coming up on time, and it's almost New Year's for Darko over there in Europe. So I want to be able to cut him loose and let him have a good night. I got one more question. If anyone wants to bring up something that we didn't discuss yet so far, we can do one last quick topic. Feel free to throw it in the chat or hop on stage. And while you're thinking of that last topic, I just pasted a link to a new program that we're doing at Kilo, which is that if you or someone maintains an open source project, we're going to offer some form of sponsorship for eligible projects. So if you have an open source project that's properly licensed, doesn't matter how small it is, you can fill this form out and we'll let you know if you qualify, and you could maybe qualify for some credits or for free enterprise access through Kilo and free code reviews. So share that with anyone that maintains an open source project.
I applied.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, I'm working on the licensing right now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let me know when you get that licensing through, because
Yeah, well, I had a boilerplate. I had a boilerplate, so I just didn't, put it all in there and
Yeah.
commit it. But it's gonna get out real soon.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we're gonna do we're gonna start messaging candidates over the next week or two to let them know the status, and I'll make sure to look out for that. It's exciting.
Cool.
Yeah, and someone said I ask all this because the company I work at is looking for an AI code review tool. Well, hey, if you want to try code reviews and you want someone to help you walk through it and set it up, hit me up. I can do it, or someone at Kilo can help you out. And someone said if my teammate also has Kilo review enabled, the PR would get reviewed twice. No, because it doesn't review per teammate. It reviews per. It's connected to the GitHub repo, to the org. So it'll just review any new PR in that org. It's not dependent on who pushed the PR, if that makes sense. So whose Kilo credits would be used? Well, if you have a team, so Kilo Teams and Enterprise allows you to pool credits across your entire team. So it would just use the organization's credits if you had a team set up in Kilo. If you had two personal accounts, it would just use yours. Who pushed it then? Okay. Got any more questions? No, I think we're good. And thanks a lot, Giovanni, for hopping in. I think we're going to do some more of these like forum style discussions, because I think they're really fun, and it's great to be able to talk to you all live. So I'm gonna throw my email here in the chat again. Anyone who
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, anyone who has more questions or wants, you know, to help get set up with code reviews or any questions on the open source stuff, you know, feel free to hit me up anytime. I'll respond and we can chat. And if you haven't already, go ahead and join our Reddit and Discord, because we announce a lot of fun stuff in there. It's a good way to keep updated with these events, and I'm hoping to see you all at the next one, which will probably be on Friday. So Friday afternoon at some point, we're going to do like a quick new feature rundown. So thanks, Giovanni, for stepping in. Thanks, Zane, and everyone else who hopped in and chatted with us. And looking forward to seeing you all at the next one. And have a happy new year. All right. Bye, everybody.